We are back with the Better Learning Podcast at LearningSCAPES, talking radically student-centered. And we've got a very recent guest on the podcast here. I feel like we've had some repeat guests, but not as recent as you. So, Peter, I'm going to hand it over to you. Just do a little intro, your name, who you're with, and maybe just a fun fact about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Peter Sharma, sustainability consultant with Stantec. I work on projects across North America and mostly education sector spaces, a lot of K-12 spaces, and I'm carbon lead for education sector for Canada and Stantec as well. So I work on holistic sustainability, embodied carbon, health and well-being, and everything you said radically student-centered. That's all I do as well. Like, improving or optimizing learning environments for students and teachers because they're going to spend most of their time becoming the next generation of leaders.
Sure. Yeah. That's great. And that's, like you said, that's what we're talking about today. So how would you define radically student-centered in your own terms?
In my own terms, and I'm going to steal a bit of an idea here that I learned today as well that inspired me, and in ways I utilize in a lot of my projects, is there's no average student, and you have to look at individual needs for all students, and to be truly inclusive, you have to design for all students in mind. So that's something that I really bring into my projects.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, have you heard of the book The End of Average? It's been a hot topic, but it's very much in line with what you're talking about there, where we can't design for the average student. There is no average student. If you design for the average student, you're actually designing for nobody. So yeah, that's awesome. So we did the wheel. Everybody's been spinning the wheel today, and we're kind of trying to bring it back, a radically student-centered mindset to your work. So what you landed on was, what principles guide you when designing spaces that truly put students at the center of learning? I want to kind of hear your perspective on that question.
So the principles that guide me, they vary from project to project, and it would vary drastically between different regions as well, and what kind of spaces are being built too. So when I'm involved in projects, ideally involved as early as possible in design. Ideally, even before design, part of pre-positioning or working on proposals and really thinking out the process behind that we're going to follow for the project. So what that does is it allows us to infuse and really bake in sustainability into the project, instead of that being a side dish or, like add-ons that you're adding to the project. Because if you perceive it that way, then you would see it as that's an additional cost to the project, versus when you start infusing those things into the project, you see them as this is the value it's bringing. If you're adding climate resiliency, for example, and you're really wanting those buildings to last the next 100 years or more, that requires a different perspective. And the materials that you use in the projects, the furniture that you use in the projects, you want things that last a long time instead of using things like fast fashion. Those are some of the studies that our team does in really looking at the diminishing returns and what the investment you're putting into the project is, how much savings you're going to have from energy standpoint. And embodied carbon is becoming a big part of the equation. That's the carbon that you cannot retrofit out from projects, right? The more efficient our buildings become, the more important embodied carbon conversations become, because they could represent 40 to 70% of carbon of the building. So especially when we're looking at all the targets that are coming through, like AI 2030. 2030 is 50 months away.
That's crazy.
It's scary. And how are we going to meet all these industry commitments? And, so I see the work that we do as helping designers address that anxiety, and not just designers, the school districts that we work with in Canada and US, both like different terminologies, but helping them understand the value behind it and building relationships.
Yeah. And it sounds like, kind of leading into the next question, you're already kind of scratching the surface, and you're already thinking, 5-10 years. Yeah, I can hear it in the conversation we're having here, but just more in the weeds, like, how do you kind of see in your work, like taking a radically student-centered approach, how do you truly see that evolving over the next 5 to 10 years?
So one thing that when I've talked to students, they have mentioned climate anxiety. And in the next 5-10 years, when those students that I've talked to, when they graduate, they're going to be in the industry and they're going to be asking questions that why aren't we doing things a certain way and thinking with long term in mind. So that's where I see us becoming a bit more accepting to some of those ideas, like sustainability, even in the sustainability world. If you were to ask me, 15, 20 years ago, we're going to have EPDs for products, environmental product declarations, or low emitting materials, and we need all this documentation to prove that they met these certain environmental or health standards. You would not find many. And then the industry push came through a lot of like rating systems like LEED that pushed the industry forward, and there was a demand that the manufacturers had to meet to be competitive and be able to bid on projects. Right. If you're not able to bid on those projects, then of course you're losing the competitive advantage, right? So you have to have those things because they are of value not just to designers but to clients as well that understand why we're looking for these certain things. So in the next 5-10 years, hopefully we've moved the needle quite a bit in terms of like our industry commitments, architecturally, engineering wise, and just meeting those climate goals, right? Because we have to answer to that next generation that's coming, that's going to be graduating, that they would be asking questions. Why didn't we do this?
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much being on. For those of you who haven't heard it, we've been doing our movie series. Peter talked Metal Lord, so if you haven't, shout out to him for going there. And if you haven't seen the movie, I actually recently watched it when you recommended it. It's a great film. So yeah, if you haven't, go take a listen. It's a great episode. So thank you so much, Peter, for being in the conversation here at LearningSCAPES, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. I appreciate it. Cheers.